Yeah, I'm Sally Calderon. I'm an early childhood special education teacher. I primarily work with students ages 3 to 5.
And I'm Megan Stiers, same thing. We do early intervention. And yeah.
Awesome, awesome, and why did you wanna become educators?
Oh my God, because it's fun.
It is fun. A great question. I mean, I've always loved kids personally and wanted to work with them. I think growing up as females, I think some of our first jobs were probably babysitting and nannies and it just kind of built from there. And so, when I was going to college, it was just kind of a no-brainer. I was just going to be a teacher. And that was kind of the route that I went. And then while I was teaching preschool before I graduated college, I actually through an inclusion program, I met a lot of children that were on the spectrum, and it just really intrigued me. And so while I was still in school, I took more classes because I was just really interested in it. And then my passion just grew and grew, and I just kept investing into gaining more knowledge. And I got my early childhood special education credential.
Yeah, and same. I just, I wanted to be a teacher, but generally, I never thought I was going to work with the population that I work with, which is kids on this autism spectrum. And it's just been so fun. And so you're always on your toes. And I think that's the greatest thing in making
Mhm.
impact in both your students and your families. And that's what, got us into the teaching field.
Did you guys always do special education? Did you do general education at all?
Go Meg.
Okay, so I did general education for 1 year. I taught a second grade class, and then because I was a new teacher, that very next school year they're going to bump me up to fifth grade, and I was just like, whoa! And I was like 24 years old. I was just, I was just so new in my career, and I still wanted to go the special education route. So I took a quick pivot. So I only did general ed for 1 year.
Yeah.
And I actually started as a behavior intervention specialist for
Mhm.
the district, and they were opening up a classroom, a pre-K self-contained classroom, and I just thought it would be so great to do. So I just decided to get my teaching credential and hop on into the classroom.
And we both actually have a background in ABA. So also in our very early years of working with, some neurodiverse children, we both, started off in the behavior fields.
Okay, and how has that helped you working with your students?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's helped with all the different positive behavior strategies that we implement into our classrooms, also data collection. And so when we got into the classroom as teachers, I felt like it helped us to be very well rounded
Yeah.
because we had the behavior. We knew how to write FBAs. We knew what to look for. We knew what strategies to implement. We knew the different things to target. We knew how to train our staff because we'd been there, done that. I mean, we kind of worked from the bottom as like, well, I was behavior support. I mean, many moons ago, almost 20 years ago now. So yeah, so I did it from the very beginning, from the ground up, and so we just knew how to work around the classroom to help manage those students and their behaviors.
Awesome, and you know that you just had mentioned, you know how to help you work with your staff. I think that's a big thing. If you're the special education teacher and you just got your credential, and then you have to manage your paraprofessionals in the classroom. I think that's something that can be a struggle for new special education teachers. How would you what kind of tips would you give somebody that was a new special education teacher? How do you work with your team and make your classroom environment a environment that's suitable for everybody?
Oh my God, great question. I always tell my staff if you're not having fun, then the kids aren't having fun,
Right.
right?
Uh,
So, I always too, like, if I like to build a dynamic in my classroom where, okay, just have fun and go with the flow, right? Even if it's kind of chaos, then it's chaos, but just go with the flow and then we'll talk about it after, right? So sometimes, with adults can be actually the most difficult part of our jobs
Mhm.
yeah.
instead of the students. It's more of the adults, but I think really is just setting a culture. It's like just have fun with the kids, If you're having fun, you're engaging with them, you're connecting with them, that's the most important part. And then if there's more of like the difficult students where we need to implement a little bit more strategies, then we kind of just like talk when the school's over and just have that discussion. Hey, let's do this. We could have done this differently. Hey, you did really good in
Mhm.
this. Because I think also, too, our paraprofessionals, especially for SPED teachers, they are our core. Like,
Yes.
we cannot run a classroom without them. So we need to like also praise them for
Mhm.
everything and just know that they're actually the most important part of our jobs, because we teach, right? But there's also, they have to support the other students in the
Mhm.
classroom that are kind of just not getting on board. So, just have a dynamic. And that's kind of what I tell my staff, like,
Mhm.
just have fun, you know? So I don't know. What
No.
about you, Megan?
No,
Like,
great answer. Yeah, I do a lot of check-ins and I do a lot of modeling. I mean, like I said, with our background in behavior, we're both very lucky that we can just hit the ground running. And it's almost like like there's behavior interventionists in the classroom just and a teacher. And so yeah, I just do check-ins and I have a lot of like visuals that I hang up too as far as like the hierarchy of prompts and just different ways to deal with the different functions of behavior just because some people need a quick like refresh. Okay, let me see this. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
and then they can use that in the classroom.
Yeah, and, I think that there's been cases where I don't know if you guys have run into it where you didn't get the right paraprofessional. Maybe the person isn't part, doesn't make the team is just not working. The team is just not working. Let me just say it like that. How would you handle a situation like that when the team is just not clicking?
oh my God, Megan, you
Okay.
as a teacher, she does a really good job. Like, like, unfortunately, we do have maybe some older paraprofessionals that can't keep up with our students, but
Mhm.
there's always a job for them. And I
Right.
think you do a really good job showing what they always have something good.
Yeah, they always have a strength. And to find the strength of that adult in the classroom, I mean, as a teacher, you don't just look at the students to find their areas of need and their strength, right? You also have to look at the adults in the classroom and you kind of almost have to just run a little bit of that going on in your brain too. Like maybe a paraprofessional is much better at prepping or cleaning up after a certain thing, and maybe not so great at behavior support quite yet. And you just have to kind of manage that. And I just think that in the field that we work in, I feel like you kind of have to have a little bit of ADHD. Your brain needs to be doing 20,000 things at one time. And so I think that that kind of works in my advantage for what my neurodivergent brain does. But anyways, yes, it's just finding, the strengths and then the areas of need for the adults in the classroom and Sally hit it on the head a few moments ago when she just said about positivity. I mean, every leader has to understand that people will work hard if they feel valued and so you need to just help them feel valued because they are so valued and they do have a skill that can help you in that classroom. And we've just had a lot of experience with that kind of post COVID with the school districts, especially. There's just been a lot of, not a lot of retention as far as keeping trained staff. And so we get a lot of different, outside contracted agency people. I don't know if anybody else really relates to that, but we have a
Yeah.
lot of that. So sometimes we get someone who has never worked with children, let alone, neurodivergent children or in a classroom setting. And so you just kind of have to. Yeah.
And the turnover rate for paraprofessionals is really high
Mhm.
because, unfortunately, we need to pay them more.
Yeah, I agree. And if you're a new paraprofessional and you work in a, let's say, an alternative setting, or you're in an alternate classroom, let's say, you're an alt classroom, and you're a paraprofessional and you're not getting the support that you need in that classroom, and the teachers not getting the support that they need. IEPs aren't being done on time. Maybe you have a psychologist that's only there maybe like once or twice a week, and so that psychologist will have to do the counseling minutes, and then they have to do the assessments, and then, sometimes IEPs are late, and let's just say you just don't got the support. You got students with big behaviors in the classroom who might be, attacking some of the paraprofessionals, the teachers. There's biting, there's hitting. If you're a paraprofessional and you just started, and that's what you got thrown into, like, "Here you go. Just get to work." That's a rough job. And then though, maybe you've never changed a diaper in your life. You've never changed a diaper in your life, and now that you're changing diapers too. That is a shock, I think. I don't know if people understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, no, it is tough. And sometimes there are classrooms that are a little bit more difficult than the others where it's, the behaviors are a little bit more aggressive and the children need more support. And as a paraprofessional, unfortunately, they don't get trained. So they're
Mhm.
just thrown into this job. I mean, you really have to love these kids. Like you have to see the light and just know you're making a difference. And I think that's why as teachers, you really like have to support them. But as a paraprofessional not getting the support, I mean, ask the teacher. Don't be afraid to ask questions
Right.
because I love it when people come to me, "Hey, did I do this
Mhm.
okay?" And I love that because to me it's like, "Oh my god, like yeah, like you did amazing. Of course, you couldn't have done this any better." And I think of course like even as teachers, administrators, we always need feedback and providing that
Mhm.
feedback. So as a paraprofessional, don't be afraid to reach out and ask questions.
I think that support piece is huge. I think that if the teacher doesn't feel supported, then the paraprofessional doesn't feel supported, and it's just a trickle down
Yes.
effect. Um, and it's sad to see when the whole thing is falling apart, when the whole system is falling apart. That is a sad thing to see because these are the students that are the students need the most help, and sometimes it feels like they're not getting the help that they need. The support that's supposed to be given to the staff and the teachers it's just sometimes not there. And then it's a trickle down effect, and then you could tell that the team is struggling.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's hard. And there's some teams like that. And unfortunately as a teacher, you have to be strong and
Yes.
pick it up.
Yeah, because you have to be the one that's not only supporting the paraprofessionals, but also advocating for them and for your classroom to admin
That's right.
because they have an agenda,
Mhm.
and it may not match what you actually need in the classroom. But, if a teacher is coming to admin for that help and support, they actually need it.
Yes. They actually need it, and, like, so my job is assistant principal over special education, and, my every time I'm in 2 different schools, and so my attention is split, and so 3 days I'll be at one school and 2 days I'll be at another school, and so the days that I'm not present at one of the schools, things will happen, and then I'll get emails saying, "Oh, this happened," and I'm like, "Oh, I can't do anything. I'm over here." And so that's tough to see, and I it I guess I'm just explaining the tough situation when it comes to special education.
And like you're split so thin
Mhm,
everywhere. Like even as service providers, school psychologists, behavior
mhm,
interventionists, AP,
Everybody.
everybody's split thin. And
mhm,
that's the unfortunate part about education,
mhm,
right? It's like the number one key to is support, right? To have functional support supporting everyone. And we're just running so thin and it's sad.
mhm.
And that's the burnout rate for everyone, especially in sped.
Especially in SPED, and yes, and then you had let's just talk about those big behaviors. Do you have, in your classroom, do you have nonverbal students, verbal students?
Yes.
Both?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, what happens when you have a student that is, let's say they are having these big behaviors. Let's say they are, um, eloping, or they keep leaving the classroom. They are throwing things in the classroom. How would you handle a situation like that? This is kindergarten, correct?
Preschool. Yeah, like pre-K. Yeah. Typically the same. Yeah.
4-year-olds?
Yeah,
4-year-olds.
yeah. I think, okay, first and foremost, safety first,
Mhm,
right? For all children. So honestly, if it gets to the point where, the kids are throwing the tantrum, it's okay to evacuate other students because other students shouldn't be like really seeing
mhm,
that. Um, but also too, I know sometimes we really rely on the paraprofessionals. And I think as teachers, this is when we intervene,
yes.
right? We have to stop the teaching because we're the ones who are actually really certified
Mhm,
to handle these behaviors.
right.
And it's honestly, you have to wait till the child's calm, regulated, in order to make a connection with
Mhm,
them. Because if they're in this high rate of dysregulation, you're not going to get to them anywhere. So you're just going to have to let them, whatever anger, you just have to let them go through it. And then once you find a calm, that's where you can make a connection. And it's sometimes you know, I feel like we're unicorns. Like you have a hat of tricks,
Yes.
right? One strategy isn't going to work.
Every time
So
for
you're
every
going to
kid,
keep
right?
pulling tricks out
Out
of
of
a
the bag.
bag to
Mhm.
see what's going to work that day.
Yes.
And really that's it. And you're going to see what is going to work for that student. Okay, I know Timmy loves Play-Doh. I'm going to go bring Play-Doh
Mhm.
and he's not having it. Okay, I'm blowing bubbles. Here we go. You know? And and sometimes it's just helping them get in the point of calm, and it's pulling the tricks out of the hat.
Mhm.
And some things work some days, some things don't. And that's the unfortunate part. But I feel like, Megan, you had a student who you significantly made huge like turnover with, and he's actually really successful in the classroom now.
Yes, yes. When I first got this young man, it was all behavior is a form of communication, and he was not able to communicate his wants and needs. He was nonverbal. And so there was a lot of biting and eloping and kicking, and he bit to the almost to the bone all of my staff members. And I always have a foundation of understanding that if this happens, whatever this targeted behavior is, whether it's eloping or the attempt to bite, then we do this. Okay. That way, at least everybody understands that there's a foundation. This is what we do. So when those behaviors happen, all the staff at the same time knows what to do. And then if I need to pivot and dip into that bag of tricks, then we can. But at least the staff is all very aware of what we need to do. But yeah, I just advocated for these paraprofessionals to get adequate training. I advocated to get more support in the room. This child needed a two on one. One to keep the other kids safe with me while the other one was keeping that child's body safe. And then I also advocated for him to get an AAC device so that he could communicate his wants and needs. And then we just kept the strategies that we developed in his BIP um, very consistent. And so consistency with the strategies, giving him a way to communicate, and then, working with my staff to, implement those strategies consistently really, really helped to reduce the intensity and the frequency of those behaviors. So he
Yeah.
has not attempted to bite anyone
Yeah.
in 9 weeks.
Yes.
you know,
That's
No,
good. That's good.
so,
but Megan really had to fight for that
mhm,
support. AAC device,
mhm.
another person in the classroom. Yeah, like you went to war. Like, I don't want to say
That's no,
war.
no. That's how it feels, though.
Yeah, like,
Yes, absolutely.
and
Yeah.
look, the successful.
Mhm.
What do you guys are talking about all these great strategies, but what do you say to somebody who, the teacher who says, I'm just here to teach. I'm not here to do any of these other things. I'm not here to pull 10 tricks out of a bag. I have one trick in a bag and they're supposed to just listen and follow directions. I'm here just to teach.
Then
I'm
go
not
make
here
it
to
happen. No, I'm kidding. This isn't for you, my loves.
But there are people, I'll get that in my comments. I'll get that in my comments where they'll say, "Well, I'm not here to build relationships. I'm not here to do any of that stuff. I'm here to teach. What are you talking about?"
Right. Then I don't know. I think teaching, like, we have 100 jobs,
Mhm.
and I get it. Like, but that's the point too, is making connections with those students to
Mhm.
make every student successful. Um, I don't know. I want to say, okay, maybe, like, I don't know. Like, it's tough. I think as a teacher, you are a unicorn.
Mhm.
You are able to, with those difficult students, find a positivity, find a
Right,
light, like, see how
right.
you can make a connection and have them
Mhm.
successful in your classroom. Because once you have them on board, your class is so fun. Like,
Yes.
it's the best,
Uh-huh.
and you make that connection and you could actually, like, have fun with your
Mhm.
students. And I think that's what's important,
Yeah.
is setting that dynamic.
Yeah, I'll get comments like, "What do you do? What do you do if a student, throws a chair or bites you or wants to fight you?" And I get comments like that, and in my mind, I have like all these strategies that I could do, but when I see comments like that, It's like, okay, the person that's giving me this comment is very closed-minded, and they can't see any other way, and it doesn't matter what I say to them. They already formed an opinion in their head that, "No, it's impossible." Well, if they curse me out or if they try to attack me or forget it, I'm gonna get rid of this student. I'm gonna, just send them to the principal's office for 8 hours a day or 6 hours a day. Suspend this student, get this student out of here. All the other students are important, and this is interrupting the rest of the classroom, and so I need to get rid of this student. I get stuff like that all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, how do I help that? How do you help a person like that?
Where I had a similar thing where I worked with a teacher who didn't have any behavior background and was a little bit rigid, very closed minded about working with students that had behaviors, didn't want them in the classroom. And I just basically said, you can do this, and it's just kind of flipping the perspective a little bit and just giving all the positivity. It's like, it's like that old saying, killing somebody with kindness it goes a long way. And so when you tell someone, no, you can do this, and I mean, not in like a what's the word I'm looking for? Not like you're not in a condescending way, right? And just you connect with them. Yeah, that's hard. Yeah, that sucks. Yeah, that seems like it's not possible, but it is. You can do this, and just kind of try to build them up. And if you keep hitting, and you just don't give up. Just like with our students, we never give up on our students, and we always try to find a way.
And it takes time.
It does.
I wish I could say that, like, oh my God, we sprinkle fairy dust and the problem behavior solved. No, it's a continuum, and it's gonna be something that's you're gonna have to work
Yeah.
hard towards. And I know I get it, like get them out of the class, but unfortunately, like where are they gonna go? When
Yeah.
you
They
like
always come back.
yeah,
They will always come back. I always say this, they'll always come back, and especially in the upper grades, they will always come back, and then they'll be like almost a bigger monster because you sent them away. You sent them away, and they're gonna come back with like resentment. Like, "Oh, you're getting rid of me? Let me show you." And okay, you sent me to the principal's office, now I'm back. Now what? I've seen the worst. If that's the worst that happens at school, I get sent to the principal's office. If that's the worst, I've done that multiple times. Forget it. I'm gonna just act up, and that's what happens.
yeah. And it's gonna be a continuous cycle unless you
Mhm.
change the perspective and
Right.
see like how am I gonna connect with the student? Even though it's gonna seem hard at first, but you know, I think I think what's the great thing about teaching your job admin is that like students do look up to you,
Mhm.
even though if you don't think so, you know, and just keep trying making those connections.
You guys both have really positive attitudes. Very positive. You smile. That's huge. That's huge. No joke. If you go into a school or a classroom and people are positive and they're smiling, you're already sending a positive message to your students. You're probably welcoming them. You're probably saying good morning. You're looking happy, and that sends a message of positivity, and it boosts everybody's morale up, and you feel good. You want to come to school, and I think that's huge. And just doing those simple things, like just being positive, is an easy way to connect with students and help with behavioral management in the classroom.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is for us, it's easy. For us, it comes naturally. But like you said, it doesn't come naturally. It may not be so easy for other educators
That's
to
correct.
do that. And so,
It's just like in the workforce,
yeah,
like why would you want to work with someone who's not happy all the
right.
time? Like any job, you have to have that positivity.
Yeah. Did
Yeah.
you guys see that? Do you guys see that on social media? Just comments or video, or let's say TikToks or Instagram posts about just what about the other students? What about
Yes.
yeah? What do you guys
Yeah.
think about that?
No, I mean, that's hard. I mean, it's hard, and it's like it gets so hard to the point when the other students' educating is getting
Mhm.
disrupted,
Mhm.
right? That's where it's hard as a teacher because you're just like, man, like today went out the window because this behavior affected the other students. And it's true. Those things happen. But then that's when you regroup with your team
Yes.
and say, okay, this is what's going to happen if,
Mhm.
let's say, Timmy does this. Okay, you're going to do this. You're going to do this
Mhm.
to help support to make sure you always want to be proactive,
Mhm.
right? proactive in your strategies, proactive to all students. And but of course, first and foremost is every other student's education being educated. And I
Mhm.
just think that's what's I mean, it's challenging as a teacher, and you're gonna have those days
Yeah.
where you're not teaching because you
Right.
have to deal with those behaviors. But I think it's just the next day's a new
Mhm.
day, and what are you gonna do better,
Mhm.
right? And I think, yeah, it's just you're like I said, you just have to keep trying new things.
Mhm.
Like right now, for my school district is gonna go back on Monday. To me, it's like this big reset. If you had a rough first semester, then you're resetting right now.
Yeah.
You're gonna go ahead and establish your norms, your procedures. You're gonna try to establish safety again. You're gonna try to make those connections, and you're going to try to boost everybody's morale and self-esteem. Now, this is the time to do it. If you don't do it now, let's say you had a terrible first semester, and now you're coming back and you don't attempt to do that, the rest of the year is tanked. The rest of the year is tanked. You're gonna have a terrible rest of the year because you didn't reset. You're not, setting those procedures, establish the procedures. Right now, it's in my mind the biggest reset. What kind of advice can you give to the teacher who had a rough first semester and now they got to reset? What would you tell them? How would they reset and get the classroom going in the right direction?
That's a great question. I would say just maybe collaboration, okay? Other than the obvious. You got to take a reset and you get to start over and do it, all the obvious things. I think collaborate with other teachers. Ask, what they're doing because sometimes people could feel stuck and going into other teachers' classrooms and just talking to them, looking in their space and figuring out how they're able to reset can maybe help. I mean, that would also kind of be my advice to go back to that one teacher who you say is just not having it rigid, very narrow minded, almost kind of maybe establish kind of like a mentor, like a sidekick with a teacher that's like Sally and I. Hey, someone you may be close with. Hey, Megan. Hey, Sally. Go check in on so and so. See how they're doing. And then we'll walk in and be like, oh hey, happy New Year. What's going on? How are you? And maybe try to connect with them and get them to open up a little bit, and then maybe provide a little bit of support for them as well.
And like you said, like it's like a reset, right?
Mhm.
So you want to see, hey, what was really successful last semester? What wasn't, right? And think about like, okay, if that wasn't successful, then there I need to change something,
Mhm.
right? Like
Yeah.
I maybe that's not a good idea, and I shouldn't do it. And keep focusing on things where you're like, oh my God, my students were engaged, they love this, keep continuing building on that and knowing that, okay, maybe this I should do that more instead of and looking at more of what really worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a tough one. It's a very tough one because like you went to first semester and it was rough for you and I guess if I think about it, the advice that I would give somebody would be that you do have to go back to your procedures, your norms, and your procedures. You have to go back to, okay, maybe I didn't teach them how to stand in line correctly. Maybe I didn't say when you walk in the classroom, you have to put your backpack here, you have to sit here, and this is what you have to do next. Maybe I don't have a procedure about asking for things in the classroom. Maybe I allow students to talk over each other. Or I don't have them raise their hand when they speak. Whatever it is, maybe they just walk out of classroom, without taking the pass or whatever your procedures are. I think that it just needs to be reestablished again. Do those things, reestablish those things. Maybe I didn't keep safety in the classroom and I don't know what to do when, a student is acting up. Like you guys say you have a clear plan. Like when this happens, then I'm going to go ahead and do these things. Maybe it's telling your team that this is what we're going to do. If Billy acts up and does these things, then this is what we're going to do. And you establish that and then you do it. And then you hold a hard line when it comes to specific boundary things like, students can't curse in your classroom. Students can't just take the teacher's stapler and start stapling. They have to ask for it. They have to ask for things. They can't just take things and just go back and do those things and try to keep everybody safe. Maybe you allowed students to make fun of other students in the classroom. Like when they gave an answer, an opinion, you allowed somebody else to laugh in the corner when they gave their answer. Maybe it's not allowing that and keeping people safe. So it's just more of, let me establish these things again. What are the things I need to establish? How do I keep everybody safe? This is how I'm going to keep everybody safe. And then once you keep everybody safe, in my mind, you start to demonstrate love, in the classroom. Like, be patient, be kind, be forgiving, don't hold grudges, do these things. These are things that you have to do. And then after that, I feel like you need to boost people's self-esteem. When students make progress, you acknowledge it. When they they didn't throw the chair this time, they just got really angry and they banged their hands on the table. Great, you didn't throw the chair. You just
Yeah.
banged at your table. I'm okay.
Yeah.
You didn't throw your laptop across the room. You just got upset and slammed the desk. I'll take that. That's a win.
Those are
Right.
like,
Yeah, you just acknowledge the wins. You acknowledge the behavior that you want. So this is the behavior that I want. I'm gonna acknowledge it and I'm gonna point it out so that I get more of that behavior. That to me is the reset. Like, that's what you need to do if you had a rough semester. But if you don't have the right frame of mind, if you don't think that it's gonna work, if you think that, "Oh, I'm not that's not gonna work. I need admin to be in here and watch me teach, or I need admin in here all the time and take this kid out every time I call him, call admin, I need that's what I need." Mm, you're just making, in my mind, you're losing your power when you always call admin to take a student out of the classroom. Now
yeah.
that student is gonna just listen to admin and not you, and the admin can't be there all the time. There's so many other teachers, so many other problems, so many other kids, and admin can't just be in one classroom.
That's
That's
true.
a problem.
Yeah, it is
So
a problem.
I mean, there needs to be, I think, more quality professional development as well. I think a lot of teachers who,
To because
Mhm.
reminders, like John, you said, like, point out the positivity.
Right.
I think we're so like focused on fixing the negative
Hmm.
behaviors, but we're not focusing on the positive,
Hmm.
right? The more you acknowledge more the positive, you see more of an increase in those behaviors because you are acknowledging it.
Hmm.
So if you want it more in your classroom, then you're going to acknowledge those positive behaviors more so often, you know?
yeah,
So, yeah, like having to, like, just reminding that. And I think professional development, teachers kind of need that,
Hmm.
like, reset, that training again, understand, because sometimes we forget. Like,
yes. The whole acknowledge good behavior, that takes practice, because if you're in a room and you had to evacuate a room and it's you and, let's say, the admin, it's the teacher and the admin in the room, and the kid is really upset and cursing everybody out and throwing things in the classroom, um, and they've attacked you. You're like, okay, I'm dysregulated myself. I am dysregulated in this classroom with another dysreg. There's three dysregulated individuals in this classroom right now, and I have to be the one that points out the good behavior, like good sitting. Thank you for sitting. Good sitting. Thank you for having quiet hands. Thank you for having quiet hands. And you have to do that. You gotta do that. And
yeah.
it's it takes growth as an individual. It takes maturity as an adult to understand that this is just a child who is dysregulated, who can't, has a difficult time expressing his or her emotions. Um, and they're trying to communicate something to us through their behavior. And as the adult in the room, you have to try to stay your best to be regulated.
And it's hard.
It's hard.
And sometimes there's times where as you have a breakdown yourself after, and those are okay to have those breakdowns as a teacher. Like, you're just like, "Dan, that was tough, and that
Mhm.
was tough." But, you have to keep like that poker face, and
Yeah.
and just keep going, remind yourself that, you're the teacher and you're teaching this. That's a teachable moment to the student, you know?
And if everybody needs a breather, it is perfectly okay to just do some music and movement. It doesn't matter what age you teach, if it's early childhood or it's 12th grade seniors, if you have access to internet, just throw on some Danny Go or some sort of like song and just kind of like move and groove it all out. Like just reset all together after something that was a little intense. Like that is perfectly okay. To kind of just think outside the box and not just be like, oh, I'm this teacher and I have to fit inside this box that I'm.
Yeah, it's tough, like, I stopped wearing ties because I would get choked by a tie. I get pulled like, Hey, let me get my tie back," like, let me like, I don't like to wear ties for that reason. I've gotten like, if I had a pocket, like a little pocket right here, I've gotten it ripped off,
There you go.
bam. And so, like, I don't know if I wanna wear shirts with pockets anymore, like, things like that, like, um, it's just because it happens, as an admin, you get called into the classroom where there's difficult situations and you have to quarterback it now. You're like, "Okay, I'm the quarterback here, and let me just okay, let's you go ahead and take everybody out right here. You're gonna stay with me because we need at least 2 adults in
Exactly.
this classroom, and so we're gonna handle this situation right now. Let's do it." Um, it's tough.
Yeah.
It is.
And reset after
Yeah.
that, like, how do you like, what do you do for yourself to reset in those moments? Because you're like top dog, right? Like you're admin and then you're helping the teachers, and you kind of have to keep it up. You poker
Yeah.
face too with the teacher.
You have an adrenaline crash too after coming in and being the quarterback.
Yeah, it's after that situation, it's like, "Alright, another situation." Go to another situation. Now you gotta yeah, yeah. Now you gotta watch supervised kindergarten, lunch, and so you're out there doing and you're smiling, you just got your tie ripped, your shirt ripped, and you're in there like, "Oh, let me open up the ketchup packet for you. Let me let me help you with your milk."
Yeah, well,
And, then you get a phone call from a parent, and you go and answer that phone call, then somebody from the district shows up, and they wanna see the classrooms, and you're like, "Alright, let's do it." And then you have gate duty at the end of the day. Then you gotta write reports afterward because that situation happened, and so you have to document everything. So you're in your office documenting, and then you just get home and you're quietly driving yourself with dead eyes all the way home.
Oh, that's hard.
mhm.
See,
Uh,
that's admin now.
that's admins, that's sometimes admin's life. Like, if I have a situation, I have days like that where it's just like what I explained to you. Um, I leave about 4-ish o'clock depending on, how much work I got. I'll get in my car and it's just like, "Okay, I gotta get home, and I can't take this home. I can't take any of this home." So it's just like a quiet 15-minute drive of me just breathing, gathering myself. "Alright, here we go. Maybe I'll put on some music, maybe I won't," but it's just gathering myself. And it's like, "Okay, here we go." And I just walk to the door and it's like, "Okay, it's time. Now it's family, and
Yeah.
here we go."
Like,
And that's just what it is.
You have kids?
I do, but they're grown. My youngest one is 21 years old.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, my youngest one is 21 years old. He's in college, right? He's away. So, but when I was younger, I had 3 young kids in at home, and so it was a little, but I wasn't admin, I was teacher. I think that being a teacher is, in my opinion, so much easier than being an admin. I really enjoyed being a teacher. It was great. I loved it. I had great relationships with my students. It was fun. It was amazing. I had a great time. And then I got my admin credential, and I sat on that thing for about 8 years, and I didn't activate it, and finally I activated, and here I am. I can't see myself going back in the classroom because I've, like, covered a few times, like, the classroom. I was like, "Man, this is kinda boring." I was like, "This is boring." I'm so used to, like, this, next, this, and I was like, "This is kinda boring." So, but yeah, I have kids, and yeah, they're old, though. You guys have young kids?
Yep. I have a 4.5-year-old and I have a 1-year-old. So I do the early childhood thing all day, and then I go home and then I have the same
Oof.
yeah, same
kinda the
thing.
same thing at home. So yeah, those drive homes are very important
Yeah,
to reset.
the reset.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we're coming toward the end of the podcast right here. Do you have any tips? Can you guys give me a couple of tips for any future educators who want to enter the field in special education? What kind of tips would you give them?
Oh, it's so fun, so rewarding.
Mhm.
I think seeing your child succeed, even if it's the small wins,
Mhm.
I think that's what makes special ed so so fun, as a special ed teacher because you're pulling tricks out of the hat, and I think you have to, love the students and make sure like the small wins are what counts. And if, you just have fun with the
Yeah.
kids,
Have fun, be vulnerable, be goofy,
Yeah.
and give yourself some grace.
Yeah.
I think that's great advice because people take themselves too seriously. They take the job too seriously. And if everything's serious and there's no smiles, you're gonna get old quickly. You're gonna burn out. And you're gonna be stressed out and your health is gonna suffer. Your
Yes.
health is gonna suffer if you don't smile. So yes, Megan, Sally, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I greatly appreciate you guys. You guys were a fresh of breath air. You guys were happy and you had great advice. And I can't wait to put this episode out for other educators to hear such a bright perspective.
This was
Yeah.
fun, John. Thanks
John,
for having us
yeah.
on.
And thanks